here we go again. More chaos and how to wind up with success out of a series of blunders and mistakes. First of all, let me thank you. Let me stop for a moment and thank everybody who's been part of this incredible journey of this amazing Mesa Boogie and the life not only that it's given me, but our top guys at the company, well, all the way down the road. You know, remember Mike Bendinelli, he's been there 48 years. He may have more time than I do because he's still there. I'm not. A lot of people that work there 30, 35, 38 years. That's who's building your amps. Okay, I wanted to talk more about Japan because it's funny. And it again typifies how to pull success out of chaos. So the first time I show up, I arrive and I've got this pile of equipment on a base bin on wheels, and I got a couple of combos and a couple of heads. I don't remember what, and I get through all of that. The customs, and I'm going through the passport place, and they say, "Well, where's your visa?" I said, "Visa? Here's my credit card. It's a visa." And they said, "No, that's not what we're talking about." So it turned out I was supposed to have a visa, and they said, "Oh man." Well, you wait here, and the airline captain will come down and he'll verify that you were on this flight from San Francisco, and that will enable you to come into the country. So I'm standing around waiting and waiting and waiting, and pretty soon the whole area it's done. There's nobody there. Everybody's left. It's like 45 minutes later. I'm going, well, the captain never showed up. This whole arrivals lounge is empty. So I just rolled my shit in and went into the country, did my business, dropped off all of that stuff at a music store called Ishibashi, a big store. They gladly brought it all. Then I met Maura Dyer, went through all of that stuff that I talked about previously. I get back, it's time to go home. And I'm waiting in the passport line, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. So I give the guy the passport. He flips through it looking for my entry stamp. Well, there isn't an entry stamp. So he hits the hidden button, and the security guys come and grab me and take me into the inquiry room, sit me down, and they're hovering around. It was like, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Oh, I came here for business." "Yep, but there's no entry stamp in your passport." And I said, "That's not my fault. I'm not in charge of stamping passports. That's your job." And I showed him my hotel receipts, and so, "See, I've been here. I've been doing business. I love this place. This is great." And they're talking in Japanese. I said, "Well, what is the problem? I want to make my flight. The big problem is we cannot stamp your exit because there is no entry stamp." And I'm sitting there thinking, the bureaucracy. Oh, I can't leave because I never arrived, although here I am. So I said, "Look, how about this idea? You don't stamp my exit. You just send me on my way." Oh, we can't do that. And finally they agreed that was the right thing to do because, again, it's the bureaucracy covering for itself. So I never arrived and I never left. But I launched our business in Japan in the meantime. So here's another great one about Japan. Paul Rivera, whom you probably know or know of, was my repairman in the LA area when we were just getting started. He worked out of Valley Arts Guitar in Studio City. It's a great place. All of the studio guys hung around there. Jay Graydon, Larry Carlton, Carlos Rios, you name it, they all hung around there. And Paul called me because he had been doing, maintenance on Boogs, and he called me and said, "I'm been put in charge of this showdown from Yamaha. They want to figure out why they're not getting the pro acceptance that they're looking for amongst the top guitar players." So he put together, I guess, a consultation with, I believe it was 12 amps and 10 studio guys. And he calls me and he says, "Oh man, you should have seen it. It was just what you say, the goggle-eyed, buck-toothed Japanese guy with a lab coat and his assistant, and they're going down there asking everybody what's this, what's that, and so forth." And he said, "The good news is you came in first in every category except Tommy Tedesco worried about the hardwood cabinet getting scratched up. And I told him, well, that was an option. You didn't have to have the hardwood. Oh, okay. So he said, now the bad news is that Yamaha is going to copy him. But here's the funny part. Now, you guys might not have heard of Tommy Tedesco, but back in that era, every TV jingle, advertising jingle, that was Tommy Tedesco. Pretty much the soundtracks of all of the TV shows, that was Tommy Tedesco. Great guy, big burly guy out of New Jersey, spoke with the New Jersey accent, which is, again, you know, I like accents. And I say this with the greatest respect and fondness. And so one of the questions Paul says is, the guy says, the Japanese engineer says, so, Mr. Tedesco, why not Yamaha but Mesa Boogie? And so Tommy strums this big fat chord and goes, blam! You hear that? The Boogie's got balls. The Yamaha doesn't. And the guy goes, oh, has bars. Oh, has bars. Write that down. Boogie has bars. And then a year later, Paul calls me and he says, you're not going to believe this. I said, okay, try me. And he said, I got the report back from Yamaha. They've been stalled for a year. And I said, really? On what? On the project to copy the Boogies. And I said, why? He said, you're going to love this. And he reminds me about Tommy Tedesco. And he said, the Yamaha guy said, oh, we buy 4 more Boogies. We take them apart. We cannot find the bars inside. Where are the bars? And, see, that's the accent. He said the balls, you know, like, let's get some coffee. But they'll write that down, the bars. And of course, at that time, you know, the Rhodes pianos were in big favor, and they did have toned bars. So maybe that's part of it. So at any rate, as part of, as I said before, these 3 companies that were interested in me, I did tour the Yamaha factories, and man, that was eye-opening. I got to tell you, that was so incredible. So, and I didn't see the electronics part. I only saw the acoustic pianos and the horns. And both of them completely blew my mind. The combination of high-tech custom equipment followed by individual hand craftsmanship, then back to more high-tech. Here's a great example. Because I'm really interested in how stuff is made. And the guy that was hosting me that day, you know, I guess he was probably in the sales, so he was more sales-oriented than manufacturing. At any rate, I'm looking at this piece of tubing that's spinning, and it's being made into a trombone bell, you know, so the tubing goes up and then it's flared for the bell. And, you know, while I'm looking at this, I'm realizing it's not doing what I thought. It's got these rollers on the inside and the outside. The tubing is spinning, and the rollers, I thought the rollers were going to go up, and each time they went up, they put a little bit more curvature in until you finally had the bell shape, right? No, that's not how it worked. And that's why he kept saying, come on. And I said, wait, I'm watching this thing. It does these long strokes, and then it comes up here, and it does that, and then it does a stroke, and then it does what you'd expect, and then it does 3 or 4 other things. So I was waiting to see, when does this repeat? And I pointed this out to the fellow. He said, oh, no, that only Studio model. That's not important. But I will show you the guy. Yes, you're right. It is a very complicated program. I will show you the guy who programmed. Come with me. And so we walk over to the other part of the factory. He said, this is the top guy. He makes a concert master model trombone. And there's this big husky guy with this leather apron on, and he's got all of these weird looking shapes of hardwood. And he is literally doing this knocking and rubbing and caressing and stretching. He's doing all of this by hand. There's no plans there or anything. He's just doing this. This is real instrument crafting. This is unbelievable. And yet, that's the way Yamaha rolled. By the way, they did, according to Paul, they made, if you guys remember this, the G50 and the G100, those are damn good amps, and they did sound if you didn't have a Boogie Mark One there, it was like, oh, there's that sound. It was 80% or more, and it was done with solid state because the Yamaha's manufacturing, they would hate tubes because it's just way harder to do anything with tubes. And what Rivera told me was that they manufactured their own transistor sets after hiring Larry Carlton and his guitar and a spectrum analyzer to have him play and record it and all of that. I mean, the ultimate scientific research laboratories, as opposed to us with, yeah, man, that sounds good. So chaos, creativity, corporations, what are you going to do? So then I go out to lunch with this guy. And we have this wonderful Kobe beef, and he's saying, Yamaha, not right for you. And I said, really, why not? What do you think? And he said, well, I'm afraid they bury your product, like with Peavey. And I said, really? How'd that work out? Well, Yamaha worried about Peavey, so yes, we distribute Peavey, and they bought a few $1 million worth of Peavey stuff and put it all in a warehouse. Nobody else would touch Peavey after that because they knew that Yamaha would just flood the market and there'd be no money made. Now, I'm no Peavey. I really wasn't a threat because Poquito Man at the top end. But nevertheless, he also said a couple of interesting things. He said, music instrument division, maybe not where I want to be. More interesting, I might be in sports goods, tennis or skiing. And I thought, what? You make tennis rackets? And oh, yes, of course. And skis. And I'd already seen the furniture that they made. And I was looking at this beautiful, modern design furniture, just exquisite. Oh, yes, well, the wood does not qualify for guitars or pianos. So we use that for furniture. And I thought, oh, my God. And then he goes into this riff. He says, and you know what else is so important is the quality of the aluminum for pianos. It must be the top quality. And the only way we realize that we can maintain and manufacture consistently with the most top quality aluminum is that we get our own bauxite and we cook it up in our own, what do you call it, like the refinery, I guess, where you shovel in the raw dirt, the smelter. That's what it is. So we smelt our own aluminum, and that's how we get the quality. But we run into big problem because we realize that you cannot turn on and off the smelter ovens. It just don't work that way. They must stay on all the time. And so aluminum coming out all the time, overnight, 24 hours, more and more aluminum. Nobody know what to do with it. So much more than we can possibly use for music instrument. So a big problem. And then finally, one man, he had the solution to all of this great quality aluminum. One word. Solution: motorcycles. They have all of this killer aluminum quality. What are we going to do with it? Let's go into the motorcycle business. And if you look at the Yamaha logo, it is 3 musical pitchforks. So this is why at one point I held up my keys to the 1317 Ross Street factory and I said, man, it's yours. I don't know how we're going to. Nevertheless, we did compete quite well because, again, we knew what our niche market was and we were devoted to it. And we knew this is not something that you can grow to be infinitely large, but it is precious. And we're doing this, as a cause and a way to make a living with this devotion. And again, that comes back to the longevity of all of the people that work there, that it's a lifetime job for them. And man, when I'm seeing the turnover now, like with my stepson, who had a great job at Google, and then they fired him, after 7.5, 8 years? Oh yeah, he's too old, get rid of him. We want some new fresh blood that's cheaper and maybe more up to date. And I hear this everywhere. This is the corporate way. As a matter of fact, that happened at 1317 Ross Street in several ways. That's why I'm not there. That's why, at any rate, I guess it's the way of the modern world. and we're not really too big of a part of the modern world. I kind of like the world that I grew up in better. Okay, again, thanks all of you for making our lives possible. I know you all think that we contributed to you guys, and we're happy to that. And it's a two-way street. I couldn't be more fulfilled than to realize that what we have created is products with intrinsic lasting value that have an emotional component to them because they're your musical instruments. And man, I'm a happy guy. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this. Catch you later.